Here at Mount Vernon, we can look at the physical space, trace the evidence, and understand how demarcation of space affected how 18th century people thought of us and them. In 1799, George Washington and his family lived at Mount Vernon, along with over 300 other people, including guests, employees, and enslaved families. George and Martha Washington had complete authority over the plantation and constructed spaces that defined that authority. They constructed areas that marked with lines, places that defined and reinforced where people of different classes and roles could and could not go. In 1787, Samuel Vaughan created this bird's eye view of the grounds surrounding Mansion House. Within the plan, lines of symmetry can be seen and places reserved for the public and private use were carefully created. Can you see the distinctions he made? The House of Families stood just north of the Washington home. This is where many servants and other skilled enslaved workers who reported to Mansion House lived with their families. A painter, Edward Savage, came to Mount Vernon around this time and painted the mansion and the surrounding buildings. Once again, we can see distinct features that separate spaces. Look at how physically close the Washington's mansion was to the House for Families. But even in close proximity, the enslaved people who did the servant work and manual labor were set apart physically and socially from the guests and residents of a higher class. The painting shows white fences next to the House for Families. These fences at Mount Vernon serve to define distinct spaces for different classes of people. We see evidence of them on the Vaughan plan and in the Savage painting. This white fence acts as a physical reminder to the Washingtons, guests, employees, and the enslaved workers about their status in society. This message was not lost by Washington, as seen in the 1793 letter between Washington and his farm manager, William Pierce.
There are a great number of Negro children at the quarters belonging to the house people, but they have always been forbid from coming within the gates of the enclosures of the yards, gardens, etc., that they may not be breaking the shrubs and doing other mischief. But I believe they are often in there notwithstanding. But if they could be broke of the practice, it would be very agreeable to me, as they have no business within having their wood, water, etc. at their own doors without.
Washington names the fence and specifically its gates as a tool to keep the enslaved children out of the space designed for the upper class community. It is the white fence in Washington's eyes that should send a clear message to everyone as a boundary between recreation spaces for the elite and where enslaved children can play. Walking through the evidence, we can see how this fence acted as a physical way to communicate divisions between populations by class and race during Washington's time. Using the tools of history and diverse primary sources, we are able to visit this plain white fence at Mount Vernon and better understand how spaces, communities, and people of the past and present are mapped onto the landscape. Check out our virtual tour to find in other ways in which George Washington divided Mount Vernon into spaces for work and play, enslaved people, and invited guests.